Hey, what's good? What's good? What's good? Welcome to D Smith.
It's
Let's
the dirt
discuss.
just proved that not everyone needs.
I'm gonna go over what's the dirt real quick. He just really showed his true colors. He showed the person he really is by going after the company man. So, long story short, what's the dirt put out a video of Family Matters, right? Of his critique of it. Who asked for that? Who knows? What's the dirt got real popular by doing a by doing a uh, background video or a breakdown of 616 in LA. He blew up off that popular video, but he did a breakdown of Family Matters. In that video, he showed his true colors. He showed the person he really is. The company man responded and said, "Hey, your theories are wild, your takes are wild, and you are out of bounds for your takes." What's the dirt did not like that, so he did a reaction video of the company man take. During that video, he clowned the company man. He downed him. He thought he was better than the company man. No, you're not better. You took a learning opportunity and just threw it away. Why? Because your ego. Because you think your YouTube channel is bigger. Let's go.
It's the dirt just proved that not everyone needs to speak on hip hop culture. But since people are able to put in their 2 cents, regardless of how I feel or how you feel, it's best to take their interpretation with a grain of salt. What's the Dirt is a YouTuber that substantially grew in popularity because of his breakdown videos of the biggest beef of 2024, Kendrick versus Drake. Oh, and if you guys could do me a favor and like the video, let's get this to 2,000 likes. We regularly get about a thou wow, you know what I'm saying, about a stack, but we trying to get 2 bands. Can we get 2 bands? His last few videos has been about each song that Kendrick and Drake released this year. And so far, each of his breakdowns has been a great watch. With most of the things covered or pretty much everything that everyone else throughout social media has already put in perspective and pointed out before his videos ever dropped. Every time I watch his videos, his takes were pretty much familiar and spot on to other creators. I also seen that covered the topic before his, but the way he broke it down and presented it was very refreshing. His latest and very controversial video was his take on Drake's song Family Matters. It was a very long, dragged out, lengthy video, which already seemed a bit odd before clicking for the simple fact that what Drake song could possibly need a 2-hour breakdown? Drake's overall music has always been very surface level compared to Kendrick's very in-depth angle with his overall artistry. Before we get into the issues of this video, I do want to point out that What's the Dirt got extremely lucky for his breakthrough content to begin with. Now, his content is great and well put together. He was going to be a very successful YouTube channel regardless, but the timing of his drops is what changed the trajectory of his sub count. I say this because his video Drake vs. Kendrick Lamar is his biggest video to date with 8.5 million views, which I'll say is indeed a great video. The way he edits and sets up his scripts, it's a real joy to hip hop fans to watch. This video in particular came out November 23rd, 2023, just 8 days after Drake and J. Cole first person shooter music video came out November 15th, 2023. You know, YouTube standard stuff, talk about the trending topics. The whole social media had been covering the subliminal disses and unspoken beef of Kendrick and Drake for some time now. Take Loasta's video that dropped February 18, 2023 for example. 9 months prior to What's the Dirt's first drop on the beef. The highly long popularity of Drake and Kendrick's subliminal disses have been something fans all around have been up to par with for the last decade. So for What's the Dirt to start his series after the debut video of First Person Shooter, it only seemed fitting to do so, and not technically hard for anyone to do, because all the material was already out there to collect and to put together in your own words and your own theories with your own opinions. And I think that's exactly what went wrong with What's the Dirt. Prior to his recent drop, all his takes was pretty much already covered, including the newer videos, because everyone was putting content out fast, trying to gain exposure through this popular beef. Shit, even I was, and that's how I got my breakthrough. I feel that What's the Dirt stayed in a safe zone gray area, and people loved his take and content because it was usually what everyone else was already feeling, or when he would put his own opinions and theories out there, it wasn't too far-fetched than what people were already discussing online, and the theories he would state and suggest seemed to not be so far of a reach. So what went wrong on his last video about Drake's song Family Matters? It seems to me that instead of focusing on everyone else's take and masking it with his own opinions and theories, he would completely do an entire video based on his own perception for the first time, instead of using what was already being said online like he would do in the previous videos. So most of the new video was opinions presented as facts, and that can come off disingenuous. Doing this was very revealing on how out of touch he truly is with the culture, and how stereotypes and in denial racism still very much exists. Now, before I break down some of his controversial takes, I do want to say this isn't about Kendrick versus Drake. This is about a well-meaning white person who's really into hip-hop that tried to join the discussion but accidentally said some things that was racially insensitive, and also stated far-reach theories with stereotypical logic. This showed he didn't really understand the culture as well as he thought he did, and it also showed the disconnect that most, not all, but most white people still have when it comes to Black Americans and our culture, and is why they shouldn't speak so loudly on topics that could be taken out of context. One of the first things that come to mind is something that took me back in disbelief when he called Kendrick a milkman and Uncle Ruckus.
Now, Tiger in particular is a well-documented milkman who, like Kendrick, has a past of infidelity. I mean, Kendrick might just be a milkman, right? A closeted milkman.
And after that, it's over. You wake up and you don't even know what you done.
I missed the show. I wish they bring it back.
What kind of prejudice shit is that to call someone a derogatory name just because he dates another race? And to call him an Uncle Ruckus, which doesn't make sense at all. And Uncle Ruckus doesn't represent Black people who are conscious and dates different ethnicities. Uncle Ruckus represents brown nosers and the tokens who sides with ignorant comments from white propaganda. And what you're doing right now, feeding the tokens and the Uncle Toms. You see, I wouldn't have to break this down to a Black person. They know this without having to have the context. Watch an episode and we laugh because we know what they're talking about and who they're making fun of with that Uncle Ruckus character. This is what we mean when white people misinterpret a lot of our culture. And why does Dirt think Kendrick is racist? When did Kendrick ever say he wasn't attracted to other ethnicities? So many questions. Just because Kendrick is the voice of the people and is a conscious rapper, a proud Black man, doesn't mean he's against other races. Showing Black pride seems to be intimidating to people because they always think it's a way of shunning out others when we show self-love, and that isn't the case. We as Black people have learned to overcome disadvantages and discrimination by self-loving ourselves loud and proud, with people like James Brown and the Black Panther Party.
We don't hate nobody because of their color. We hate oppression.
It's deep rooted in our grandparents who were young when that James Brown song came out and when the Black Panthers were thriving. Most of our grandparents that lived then are still alive today. It's instilled into us. Just like the N-word with the hard R, Black people changed the entire meaning to it and successfully changed it by saying nigga instead. And that's one thing that white people seem to not understand. Kendrick never claimed to be against dating outside his race. That's Drake's confusing the people and changing the narrative. One of the villains states, because Drake's angle was to paint Kendrick as a colorist, and it had effect to an extent, and trying to say he is no different because his woman is mixed and his son is lighter like his mom. So let's talk about Whitney real quick. Black comes in all shades. It doesn't matter if you're mixed with black, you're still black. Your ass still checking that African American box on a job application. When you're pulled over, they're telling their buddies they pulled over a black man or woman, no matter how mixed or light skinned you are. If you look anything black with black ancestry and black lineage, you're black. And Whitney being from the hood and inner city and biracial, she's black. Drake's blackness being questioned by us isn't for white people to question at all. Don't get it twisted. I think I need to say that one more time. Drake's blackness being questioned by us is not for white people to question at all. Drake is black, but he wasn't raised black. His dad wasn't in his life. He's seen his dad a few times, but they didn't have an established relationship.
This is my dad, and him and my uncle worked with Al Green. He taught me everything. So, thank you, Dad. I don't get to see you that often, but, you know, my love is always with you.
Drake himself would often rap and vent about this. He was raised in Canada by a Jewish mother and grandmother and uncle and went to an all-Jewish school.
First of all, I live in an all-Jewish area, so
Where is that?
Forest Hill.
Okay.
I went to a predominantly Jewish school growing up. I definitely had a bar mitzvah in an Italian restaurant, mind you.
My lord.
Yeah.
A nice Italian restaurant?
A very nice Italian restaurant. The song of the night was Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way.
The persona Drake pretends to be and how he treats his other black peers as a community is why his blackness is even in question to begin with. The fake accents, the hood hopping, the shady deals, the cease and desist letters, the way he still styles and ride waves and does shady industry backstabbing shit. It's very parallel to what whites would do to black people back then in the music industry.
You ain't nothing but...
You also never see any footage of Drake praising his blackness, but you see countless videos of Drake praising his Jew side. He also never has an opinion or voice when black injustice is going on. And to point out lyrics about weave and fat asses,
Kendrick had to frame those lyrics like he had big plans of messing with thick queens with the weave looking on point, but in reality he was gripping on a blonde ponytail and balls deep in skinny white ass.
was very stereotypical and distasteful to say the least. Saying Drake is half black and his other side of the family uses it,
Because Drake is half black, the other side of his family uses it.
again, stereotyping. How do you know his other side of the family says this? What makes you so sure? Irregardless whether his dad's side does say it or not, even if you had the proof of them saying it, Drake didn't even used to say the word correctly.
It was somebody that I was like, I used to see out and be like, yo, that's that nigger, you know what I'm saying? He's doing his thing, yo, that's that nigger, yo, that's that nigger, yo, that's that nigger.
Which completely goes against Dirt's stereotype. Any black person knows by this clip alone that Drake is more white than black from his lack of awareness. When it came to the word with the hard R, this clip alone screams loud and clear that Drake truly wasn't raised around black people. And I seen a clip of What's the Dirt react to another YouTuber that goes by the name of The Company Man, where this YouTuber does a my take on Dirt's latest video, and Dirt watches and says this.
My family growing up didn't use the N-word. I made a whole video on my channel. I didn't say the N-word for 20 years.
Bro, I could kind of tell.
When he says he looks like he doesn't say nigga, which is just, man, I would for real like to throw hands after that. This dude is playing in our faces. And this is why we need to stop letting people like Dirt be tourists of the culture. They get very comfortable. It gets to their heads and overstay their welcome and start saying offensive shit. When he says that he doesn't assume all black families use the N-word, but completely contradicts himself when saying he could tell that the company doesn't say it.
He said this is a great example of me being lost because he assumed that I assumed that all black families use the N-word, and he's trying to peg that on me and put that on me. That is bullshit.
I didn't say the N-word for 20 years.
Bro, I could kind of tell.
Hey Dirt, that's not for a white person to determine. He goes into saying that Drake is 37 years old, and because of this, Drake says the N-word 37 times, which represents every year that he's black.
And what's also really clever here is that Drake is 37 years old, and he says the N-word 37 times on this track, and I believe his reasons for doing this is he's basically saying the word for every year that he's been alive, to symbolize that he was indeed born black.
Boy, if you don't get
This was one of the craziest takes I've ever heard, and I don't mind reaching at all. I reach. If you notice, I wanted to stay on the true issue of the video, which is why I'm not including his other far takes, because even though it pissed people off and didn't make sense, and he favored Drake in many ways that were clearly biased and not factual, it's still his outlook and his opinion. If he wants to far stretch and pull shit out of his ass, that's on him, and he has the right to do so, but not about black culture. That's where I draw the line, and why I'm responding in this video. For one, black people don't pay attention to how many times someone says nigga unless it's a person who shouldn't be saying it. And that's not including Drake. See, we make fun of Drake like a SIG or a roast session back in high school. We take jabs at how he's a bit whitewashed, but we would never feel completely away about him saying nigga. We wouldn't count how many times Drake says nigga. Like, what the fuck? But as soon as we hear the word once from a different race, then that's another story. For two, you're trying to break down Drake's bars as if they're Kendrick's. Drake has never made music with hidden clues or that in depth. Again, very surface level bars. And that's not to discredit Drake. Drake has made great music in the past. Let's not take away from his artistry. However, you're literally looking way too deep than Drake ever would intend to go. And what made you even count the word nigga in the first place, bro? What is wrong with you? It's not shocking though, because it's clearly a white take. It's bland as hell and unseasoned as fuck. And then there's the colorism. Miseducated statements about Adonis being light-skinned and Kendrick's son being lighter than Kendrick. Saying Kendrick might be embarrassed to be seen with his son because he's lighter than Kendrick that's just a white prejudice thing you could say.
Although Kendrick's child isn't anywhere near to as light as Drake's, Drake leverages this to subtly accuse Kendrick of hypocrisy. This is Kendrick's reality, right? He does have mixed children, and he does seem to prefer lighter complected women. Kendrick really wants to be with white chicks, right? That's truly what he wants, but because he's Kendrick Lamar, he has to hide it. He's embarrassed to be seen.
Black people come in all shades. There's albino, brown, light brown, dark brown. We are literally all the shades of the world. Drake is self-projecting because for the longest, he didn't want people to see his child because he didn't think it was his. And it was speculated that he wasn't certain it was his child because of how white Adonis appeared. Now that's just speculation, but it's not so far of a reach when Drake battles with being accepted in the black community. So at this point, this is just preference versus programming. I mean, there was a lot of takes that was misinformed and misinterpreted. Saying Kendrick is doing songs with white artists as if he isn't supposed to or is not supposed to, that's a weird take. And siding with Drake about YG and CB being actual blood members.
Drake then makes a reference to Chris Brown, and many might think this is a gimmick, but Chris really is a full-on Fruittown Pyru, because Chris Brown is an R&B singer from Virginia, but unlike Kendrick, a Compton native who was only an affiliate, Chris is a full-on gang member.
Industry blood members at that, which, by the way, caused Drake issues from that statement alone. To know gang politics and the gang-banging culture, you know you can't name-drop people. For one, that's dry snitching. And for two, other rival gangs will check your ass. Some rival gangs will take that as disrespect. Like, oh, is that who you roll with? You claiming a side? What's up? And also, Kendrick being from Compton, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that he has acquaintances with people that bang. And that line that Drake said could come off disrespectful to them. Like, oh, you think we won't do anything about it? Like, oh, you questioning us. You think we won't do anything about it. You think he don't have real hitters around around here. I mean, that whole Ken and Friends was a statement. Flamed up, all red. People didn't look familiar to me nor you, but believe me, they did to the LA streets with well-known gang members on stage showing their allegiance to Kendrick. That was a threat and a warning to Drake. Why do you think he sold all his houses? Why do you think he moved to Houston next to mob ties? And then there's this video that What's the Dirt would edit to lean more on Drake's favor and lies.
Indeed responsible for this incident.
Because like half of her face was like blown out pretty much. She was with a certain rapper who had assaulted her. His first name was Kendrick. Kendrick Lamar? Yeah. There was cops there, and we didn't find out it was Kendrick until later.
And it's at this point where the Who Kid drop from Drake from push-ups starts to get a little more interesting.
This Twitter user calls him out. You spent months on this, and you edited the security interview for Drake's narrative. You said the dates lined up with the security guard, which it doesn't. The guy next to her said it was a UFC fight night, not boxing. She agreed. UFC 173 happened that weekend in Vegas. So if you're sticking with her story, you should stay on that weekend. Hashtag Culture Vulture. And then there's this clip about his fellow YouTuber, The Company Man, having no motion.
But I'm not putting it up on YouTube because I'd only be doing them a favor. Like, a lot of these guys don't have a lot of motion. That's like, they just don't, right? So I would be helping them.
Well, he has motion today, if anything. Just like you use Drake and Kendrick's moment to shine like any other YouTuber will do, including myself, because it's a viral topic. I mean, what are you actually trying to say here? You know how YouTube works. They're trending, so everyone is going to either react and give you your flowers, or they're going to react and tell you what you probably don't want to hear. Irregardless, what does motion have to do with this? Because he does have motion. Because he's actually doing numbers right now. He's getting the views. Like, it's so funny and awkward as hell when the uncultured white people don't even understand the phrases they're using when they use it. It's just, it's hilarious. I mean, from the offensive tweets that he kept tweeting, the dude is like Carlton from Fresh Prince, and you're trying to frame this as me being racist. Come the fuck on now. Because you're looking at a man who speaks with some sense and higher education, you want to compare him to Carlton. And if that's not racist, I don't know what is, bro. And then he goes and says this: I swear, baby, I only fucked those white chicks because I'm racist. I did it for my ancestors. It was all for the culture. Don't you understand? I did this for us. Laugh out loud. Like, come on, man. I talk about this in the breakdown because it really supports Drake's Black Messiah line. What? That's what you got from Drake's Black Messiah line? And that's why we question Drake's blackness. I'm just gonna put that out there, because if you guys are both thinking that way, I mean, a statement like that for a white dude to go on YouTube and be basically the culture vulture of YouTube hip hop, it's beyond me. Cause you're showing your whole ass right now, dude. Like, you really are. I don't care how talented you are, how you put words together and brainstorm and put all these cool fancy edits in your videos. You showing your whole ass right now, and you're looking like a culture vulture. You're looking like a colonizer, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you with that. I just don't get it. Like, we could keep going. If you go to his tweets, he has a shit ton stupid remarks like I just read, and very, very insensitive. I mean, it's leaning on the prejudice versus racist side of him, and it shows how he really is just not like us. And that's so corny to say, but it's the truth. It really is the truth.
So, shout out to Deleted. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. What's the Dirt? Took a learning experience and just threw that shit away. I'm out of here.